Things you need to know about the Oklahoma City bombing. April 19, 1995, a domestic terrorist truck bombing on the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, United States. The main perpetrators were Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. The bombing killed at least 168 people, injured more than 680 others, and destroyed one-third of the building. The blast destroyed or damaged 324 other buildings within a 16-block radius, shattered glass in 258 nearby buildings, and destroyed or burnt 86 cars. Until the 2001 September 11th attacks, the Oklahoma City bombing was the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil. It remains the deadliest incident of domestic terrorism in the United States history. Timeline. April 19, 1995, 9:02 a.m., a rental truck filled with explosives is detonated outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
Army veteran Timothy McVeigh is arrested during a traffic stop for driving a vehicle without a license plate near Perry, Oklahoma. April 21, 1995, Terry Nichols, McVeigh's alleged co-conspirator, turns himself in. May 23, 1995, the remaining parts of the Murrah building are imploded. August 11, 1995, Nichols and McVeigh are indicted on murder and conspiracy charges. April 24, 1997, McVeigh's trial begins in Denver, Colorado. June 2, 1997, McVeigh is convicted on 11 counts of murder, conspiracy, and using a weapon of mass destruction. He is later sentenced to death. November 2, 1997, Nichols' trial begins in Allister, Oklahoma. December 23, 1997, Nichols is convicted on federal charges of conspiracy in 8 accounts of involuntary manslaughter. He is sentenced to life in prison. He is serving his sentence at the Supermax Federal Prison in Florence, California. June 11, 2001, McVeigh is executed by lethal injection. He is the first person executed for a federal crime in the United States since 1963. May 26, 2004, the jury spends 5 hours deliberating before announcing the verdict. Nichols is found guilty in Oklahoma City State Court on 161 counts of murder. August 9, 2004, Nichols is sentenced to 161 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. The U.S. Congress passed the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 as a result of the bombing. It tightened the standards for habeas corpus in the United States, as well as a legislation designed to increase protection around federal buildings to deter future terrorist attacks. That didn't seem very effective. Just look at the World Trade Center bombings. The Oklahoma City National Memorial was dedicated on April 19, 2000, on the site of the Murrah Federal Building, commemorating the victims of the bombing. On April 19th, remembrance services are held every year at the time of the explosion. The bombs were a deadly cocktail of diesel fuel, ammonium nitrate, agricultural fertilizer, and other chemicals. Lori and Michael Fortier were considered accomplices for their foreknowledge of the planning of the bombing. McVeigh and Nichols were associated with extreme right-wing movements, white supremacists, and the militant patriot movement. The movements reject the legitimacy of the federal government and law enforcement.
You're next! Wake up and understand! You're next!
Timothy McVeigh became obsessed with the Turner Diaries, a 1978 novel by William Luther Pierce that urged violent action against the United States government. McVeigh swore revenge on the federal government for their handling of the Waco siege and had a similar incident a year earlier in Ruby Ridge, Idaho.
3 fires ravaged the building, killing 76 men, women, and children.
April 19, 1993 was the date the federal agents raided the compound that ended the Waco siege. Patriots' Day is the anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775. That marked the beginning of the armed uprising by colonists against British control. April 19th, 1995 was also the date of the white supremacist Richard Schnell was executed. He had repeatedly told prison officials that there would be a big bombing and explosion on the day of his execution. Nobody knows if Timothy McVeigh knew about the daycare being in the Oklahoma City building before the attack. A lot of people think that it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
I didn't find out where the boys were until late that Saturday evening. That's when I found out that their bodies had been identified, and everything went to hell from there on. Every morning when I got out of bed, I felt like somebody had taken a bucket of sorrow and just started pouring it on me. And you lose somebody, you grieve until they are buried, and after the funeral, you're supposed to go on with your life. But they died a different way than most people. These two were murdered, and that's the difference.
I remember the building shaking. It felt like you would be on a ride, like at the fair or circus or something, how it went from one side to the other side. The rubble from the ceiling up above fell on top of me, and by the time we got up, there was people saying they couldn't see and they needed a way out.
Well, I personally think you being blind that day helped you get out and help save them other people. You knew how to get out, and they didn't, because you didn't need to know how to see to get out.
I could still hear all right, smell all right, so I told everybody we'd just hook onto one another and go on out to the back. If it's just something that has to be done, you have to do it.
If you hadn't been there to help those people out, I don't know if they could have made it or not. I know you've told me that the day of the bombing, that was the only day in your life that you were glad you weren't able to see, so you didn't have to see all that carnage down there.
You know, you kind of picture it in your mind, but if I could see, I probably wouldn't want to see what happened.